The Slammies took place last night on Monday Night Raw. Who took away a Superstar of the Year? Who really deserved to be Diva of the Year? And what was Match of the Year? And what exactly happened on Monday Night Raw? Well, we're fixing to tell you on this week's Monday Night Raw review. Hey, YouTube, are you ready for your hot tag? Because if you are, it's definitely time to work.
Hi, I'm Robert Gibson.
I'm Ricky Morton.
We're the Rock and Roll Express.
And you're watching WGS-TV.
Greetings, YouTube. You're working into another episode of WGS-TV right here on youtube.com/WrestleGamer. I am the WrestleGamer, Double B Bujo. Today is December 22nd, 2015. The second video you guys are seeing today, the first one will be the Loot Crate video, which you guys have probably already seen. But anyway, guys and gals, what we're going to be doing on this video in particular is talking about Monday Night Raw, and in particular the Slammies. And from and I'll tell you what, I've went through various other people's reviews here on YouTube, and a lot of them really have different opinions on who should have won what Slammy. But we're going to talk about what we thought of it. But before we get started, let me introduce the panel for this week's Monday Night Raw review. First off, ladies and gentlemen, you know him as the hardcore host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio himself, the Hardcore One, Rick Head. Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'm glad to be on WGS-TV, which is hosted by Double B's Louisiana brothel.
I'm going to get you back for that one someday. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, he's also here, the incomparable one, Lance Moss. Lance, how you doing?
Pretty good, but Ricky forgot one sponsor, Billy's Big Bongs.
Oh, God.
Well, you know what? I figured I would have just left that for you because, you know.
Anyway, before I'm subjected to more abject humiliation, let's get this review started. Now, as we look at the opening of Monday Night Raw last night, ladies and gentlemen, as I scroll up to my notes, I should have been more prepared. It was Stephanie McMahon would come out to kind of say how she was happy and everything like that, which then would bring out Roman Reigns. And basically, all this was, for one, to hear Stephanie McMahon whine like a bitch, which she did. And secondly, was to set up two matches, especially for the main event. The first matchup she would set up, as Roman Reigns was walking away in an attempt to piss her off, was a 3-on-2 handicap match, the New Day versus the Usos, and then the steel cage match between Dean Ambrose and Sheamus. Rick, taking a look back at that opening segment, didn't it make your ears bleed just a little bit hearing her scream like that?
No. I mean, you know, we've seen her scream like that several times. So for me, it was just Stephanie McMahon, you know, boosting up that heel gimmick that she's really doing very well lately. On a side note, I've been reading a couple of news posts where fans are really feeling that her slapping wrestlers and her not being able to slap back is kind of like a down thing. They're not really happy with it. Me, honestly, I think it's helping her career. And if you look at it, Triple H is the one who's getting all the abuse, so it kind of balances things out.
In a sense, yeah. In a sense, they're right about that. But anyway, the first Slammy of the night was the Breakout Star of the Year presented by Dolph Ziggler. And the Slammy would end up going to Neville. And to me, Lance, when I looked at the selection, for one thing, Tyler Breeze hasn't done anything to be worthy of Breakout Star of the Year. But in my personal opinion, it came down to two selections. For me, it would have gone to either Neville or Kevin Owens. What's your opinion on that?
They had two good choices, you're right. And you are right between who it was, but I still think the guy who had a bigger impact this year, sorry, Pac, you didn't quite make it to, in my personal opinion, it should have went to Kevin Owens.
Yeah, and you know, he's had an amazing run, and honestly, considering the fact early in the year he started off in NXT, and then within the exact same year gets pushed up to the main roster. To me, that's a breakout star right there. So I think more than likely it should have gone to Kevin Owens. Now, I'm not saying Neville is a bad selection. You know, in and itself, Neville is an amazing athlete. You know, and he can do things. Yeah, he can do things in that ring that I'm going to say about 90% of men can't do.
let's forget there's a reason they call him the man that gravity forgot.
Yeah, but then they would bring out Kevin Owens. He would have a little bit of a confrontation with Dolph Ziggler, which then would lead to a matchup later in the night, and we'll talk about that match when we get to that point in the show. Now, you want to talk about predictability. WWE Creative and Road Dogg need to pull their heads out of their asses. Because what they did with the first two matches, in a sense, was so extremely predictable, it made me sick to my stomach. Let me explain for those of you who still haven't watched Monday Night Raw last night. The opening matchup was Kane and Bray Wyatt. And of course, he had the Wyatt family there, which would then lead to, at one point, the Wyatt family assaulting Kane on the outside, which would then lead to a disqualification. Out comes the Dudley boys and Tommy Dreamer in his American Dream pants. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, that's the polka dot pants, to come out to make the save. And one thing I said on my Facebook page last night, Rick, that if we did not have an 8-man tag match already in progress when we came back from commercial break, I was going to be shocked.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you know that matches end very early due to like these breakout and they have other wrestlers come down, it's almost protocol that there's going to be a tag team type match.
Exactly. Now, this matchup wasn't really that bad. In essence, it wasn't a very long match. The finish of the match came down to Luke Harper, which I still believe firmly, in my personal opinion, Lance, Luke Harper is the shining star of the entire Wyatt family gimmick.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, he's basically Bruiser Brody reincarnate.
Yep, he would end up hitting the discus clothesline on Diva and Dudley to pick up the win for the Wyatt family. Now, the Slammy Award for the LOL moment of the year. First off, I got to say, great to see Santino Marella back in WWE. The guy, when it comes to cutting his promos, especially in the comedic style, personally, Rick, he hasn't lost a step when it comes to that.
You know, absolutely, and we're not sure as to whether this was just a one-time thing. We know that he is injured and officially retired from wrestling, but I think he could do some off-stage stuff, maybe even be a color commentator. And that's the thing. That's a lot of things that WWE is trying to work on with the comedy aspects, but to some point, it's just not enough. I think they need a little bit more.
Wasn't he doing something to that extent when WWE was doing Saturday Morning Slam?
Mm-hmm.
But
I believe so.
But the LOL moment of the year, and I gotta say, Lance, I agree with the selection. Archer's My Bad moment. If you think back to when they were promoting Money in the Bank earlier, and Archer would come out and proclaiming that he was going to win, and Kane had to remind him that he wasn't in the match, and he said, "Oh, my bad. That's on me. My bad." I gotta agree, Lance. That is definitely an LOL moment of the year.
Oh, most definitely. While we all give him crap about being a jobber, he's a comedic genius.
However,
for WWE.
However, I will give an honorable mention to Triple H and Stephanie McMahon dancing with the New Day. Especially Triple H. When it comes to comedic style like that, we said Santino Marella hasn't lost a step. I think we can put Triple H, Rick, in that same vein, that he hasn't lost a step when it comes to doing comedic stuff like that.
Absolutely, and I think that started with his, from early on with DX, and it just shows he can carry that on. And while we're talking, I would love to introduce Joseph Knight from the CWA. Joe, what's up? And Joe doesn't have his microphone on yet, but
yeah, I'm sorry, guys. What was the question? I heard Raw stinks. Yes, what was it?
We were talking about. Billy was talking about Triple H and how he still has a comedic style from his days in DX when he was doing the dance with New Day.
Geez.
And officially, Joe. And no, I don't think it was speechless. I think Joseph Knight just came.
No, I did that earlier with the wife. I came and went, and but here's the thing. I think Triple H is just trying to keep his character interesting and trying to keep it, like relevant. So he'll try to do all these different things just to keep it relevant. I think, in all honesty, I think it's time for the slow-petted caveman to step back, just like Vince did, give it time, and let the people do what they gotta do. And I think that's the most sound advice that we can have. It's time for him to step back, let everybody know, even though everybody knows he runs the company to a point and is driving it down the toilet, they know that he should stay away and let things happen and do like Vince does. When the situation warrants it, come back.
Now, when it boils down to the OMG shocking moment of the year, there were quite a few selections that I personally think should have got it. I'm not going to disagree with the fact that Kalisto got it, especially for the Salito del Sol that he did off the top of the ladder to Jay. I think it was Jay Uso, and they went through the ladder. And I got to agree, that is an OMG shocking moment of the year. But considering the fact that two of the selections, Rick, were both Money in the Bank cash-ins, when Seth Rollins cashed in at WrestleMania and when Sheamus cashed in at Survivor Series, I believe. And I got to ask you, Rick, do you agree with that selection of Kalisto getting the shocking moment of the year?
You know what? It was a phenomenal finisher. And I think when, all three of those really are definitely top candidates. So I think considering they gave Seth Rollins an award, which we'll talk about a little bit, I think it was the right call.
Well, the matchup following that would stem from the confrontation that Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler had at the opening of the show during the Breakout Star of the Year presentation. Now, when it comes to this match, Kevin Owens, again, it's Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler, and I gotta say, every time I watch them, Lance, I always watch in enjoyment because they always have good matches.
Oh, definitely. These two guys could be the future of the company.
Yep, but it would boil down to Kevin Owens hitting the pop-up powerbomb on the show-off to get the win. And then we will also get the announcement that on tonight's Super SmackDown Live, that there will be a triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship. Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, and Dean Ambrose. And I gotta say, Mr. Knight, a lot of people really aren't fans of triple threat, but when you boil down to these three stars, and Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, and Dean Ambrose, you could probably anticipate a really good match between these three.
Oh, absolutely. They're putting three of the freshest, youngest talent in there to pretty much be the spot monkeys. Well, Dolph Ziggler is the king of the bumps. I haven't seen a guy take as much bumps as Kurt Hennig used to do. So him, Dean Ambrose, who's reckless, just Kevin Owens. There's really no way to explain the guy. That mix alone will be, I would say, a great match for that show.
Definitely. Now, the Superstar of the Year Slammy presented by Stephanie McMahon. And I gotta say, Rick, I agree with the selection of Seth Rollins. He's really done, he's probably had one of his best years in 2015, considering that everything that he's done is from the Money in the Bank to the matches he's had at Royal Rumble with Brock Lesnar and John Cena, then WrestleMania, then all of the great matches he's had defending the championship. And I gotta say, I agree with Seth Rollins as a Superstar of the Year, but I think probably your partner, your sidekick, the son of a bitch, Andy, would select Kevin Owens as Superstar of the Year.
That's Billy. Andy, that's Billy. Get him.
In all seriousness, yeah, I have to agree. Seth Rollins, he was probably one of the biggest heels in WWE for 2015. Fans hated him, online, off, in forums. They had nothing nice to say about the guy, and I had to give Rollins kudos for that because he did his job well. Now, on a side note, when he accepted the award and came out, the same fans who were booing him, he got the hugest pop of the night. And during his acceptance speech, he really, was trying to do the heel character, but he couldn't because he was really had those mixed emotions, and he got very, very serious. And you could see the real Seth Owens come out a little bit.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah, because considering the fact that they were going to giving him such an accolade as a Superstar of the Year and everything like that. But I think probably from here on after that, it was probably just joke. There are probably two joke awards, and then the last two were kind of weird. But anyway, we're going to look at Jack Swagger and Alberto Del Rio. There's no shocker here. Del Rio went with the turnbuckle double stop on Jack Swagger, and then after the match was over, the League of Nations in NWO style, in a sense, started beating down Jack Swagger with Sheamus hitting the bro kick on the Real American, and then we would get the hero in all of us award presented by Mark Henry, and the guy that won it was Lance Moss's favorite superstar of the year, John Cena.
Billy, bless your heart.
But following that, we would have the surprise return of the year, and Mr. Knight, I'm kind of scratching my head as to how can they view Sting as surprise return of the year. I don't understand that.
You know what's this called? We ran out of ideas and people. So they pretty much had to give Sting something, because after all, he jumped to Triple H at WrestleMania. He hasn't been relevant for months. So I guess they had to figure out something. Well, we'll just give him this award. Yeah, that's good enough. You know, they could have given him the most face painted award or something else, but it's something that they just had to do, and I guess Sting was like, okay, gee, thanks. Not like it makes a shit of difference, but okay.
In your personal opinion, who should have got it?
Fuck. Geez. You know, really, if you look at everybody, there's really no candidate there. Everybody has been, you know, really relatively active. I think if you want to say comeback or returning star, it would have to be Vince for that performance he did on Monday Night Raw.
You know what? I would have to agree with you on that one. I mean, it'd take Vince McMahon to actually bring the ratings up, and then I think next week probably ratings took a dip. The Usos would take on the New Day, and again, no matter what the New Day are doing, I love watching these guys. It's absolutely amazing how they've been able to take the gimmick, Rick, that they were given, and just absolutely take it and own it and make it theirs and make it entertaining and funny to watch. Whatever that these guys do, I love watching these guys.
You know, I got to give it to you. I agree with you, because, you know, when New Day first came out, I think everybody was just like, okay, this is going nowhere. It's because they seemed like they were doing the preachy thing, and I think that they evolved over the past 4 or 5 months, and they realized that they're just doing the comical aspect. And you see a lot of comical aspects in the past where it's just like tongue-in-cheek, but this is just like that type of like, what the fuck, and you can't stop laughing about it. So, absolutely.
Rick, I think we actually called them the poor man's version of the Nation of Domination.
Yeah, or you know, I would more of the spoof Nation of Domination, but I absolutely agree with you.
The matchup in itself with the New Day 3-on-2 handicap match against the Usos was all right in itself. One of the Usos, I'm not even sure which one it was. And again, they're twins. You can't tell them apart.
It was Tama.
One of them reversed a cradle pin that Xavier Woods attempted on them to get the win. And then we also get the announcement that on tonight's Super SmackDown, the tag team titles are on the line as the New Day will defend against the Lucha Dragons. So that's another match in itself to see. I'm not even sure what the rest of the card is, but those are probably the two featured matches they have tonight on Super SmackDown: the tag team titles and the triple threat Intercontinental Championship match. Now, the Diva of the Year. I'm sorry,
really, before you go on to the Diva of the Year, you know, and the spoof they did with Steve Harvey, I have to say, when they have to give the Lucha Dragons a title shot, you know, and they've done the Usos. They already seen that the thing with the Team 3D or Dudley Boys are already run. I think we can clearly say New Day, as funny as it sounds, are the most dominant tag team in the WWE, and there is no one that can come close to taking them out, except if you want to really get serious and throw in the Wyatt family, in my opinion.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you to that extent, but the Wyatt family has really never been used in a tag team capacity in the time that they've been doing it. It's been more like a stable gimmick. You know, whenever you see Bray Wyatt, you would see Luke Harper, Eric Rowan, and Braun Strowman. But if they would have put Rowan and Harper back together as a tag team, like they were trying to do, I think about a year or two ago, then I could see that possibly happening. Of Harper and Rowan being probably one of the most dominant tag teams since WWE creative, including Road Dogg, doesn't have a freaking idea what to do with the Ascension. Considering the Ascension used to be the most dominant tag team in NXT, and then they bring them up to the main roster and make them a complete freaking joke.
Yeah, they made them into Road Warrior Demolition wannabes. But I think, in my opinion, and Rick, maybe, I don't know what you would say, but wouldn't the situation with the Wyatt family looking to be, once again, get dominant if they were to, since the New Day are doing Freebird rules, I can see them doing Wyatt rules, which is, 4 on 3, and really dominate that tag team division.
In all seriousness, and I'm just going to make this one quick, I don't think so. I think this, the Freebird rules with 3 with 2 titles is enough. Doing 4 might be a little bit of overkill.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to enlighten you on a couple of things when especially it comes to WWE's fan voting awards, especially like the Slammies. First off, how can anyone actually legitimately vote Nikki Bella as Diva of the Year is beyond me. And if they were really pulling down Lance to legitimate fan votes, I gotta say, Paige probably would have taken it, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, because honestly, no disrespect to her, a lot of people were saying Sasha, but I don't think she'd been around quite long enough to be Diva of the Year. Her and Becky and Charlotte just debuted on the main roster, 4 or 5 months ago?
Something to that extent.
So to me, to be for a superstar of said year, you got to be at least around the entire year. That's personal. But yeah, Paige definitely deserved it.
Well, you know why she got the award? Because John Cena's her. In relation, my tongue is tight. She got it because she's related. She's with
that's
Cena.
what she does to John Cena.
Yeah, she ties John Cena's tongue. But I gotta say, Mr. Knight, do you agree with the usage of taking a topical situation like what happened, the whole situation happened with Steve Harvey? Do you agree with that usage? And do you think WWE did it funnier than Steve Harvey?
Oh, absolutely. They did it more funnier. Steve Harvey's getting the butt of jokes because of that situation. I know people confused with that Miss Universe pageant. I'm more concerned at how did Bruce Jenner as Caitlyn Jenner become Woman of the Year.
Yeah, that'll be probably a discussion for another time and another place. But anyway, what I also found interesting, Rick, is the way that Nikki Bella kind of did her acceptance speech and kind of, would you kind of say broke kayfabe a little bit by making nicey nice with Paige?
I think so, that she did it, and whether it's her going to be coming back as a babyface and her and her sister Brie is going to have another fight saying, oh, you abandoned me type deal, because if you've noticed, since Nikki Bella's been gone, Paige has been getting her ass kicked. So it could possibly go in that direction.
Do you mean Brie Bella?
Brie Bella, I said Paige, didn't I? Yes, Brie Bella. So, but it's just one of those things that could be a possibility. Or she could have broken kayfabe because she wanted to let everybody know that she truly was appreciative. As far as her getting the Diva Year of Award, you got to look at the fact that she, which WWE pointed out, that she was the longest running diva this year. So in history. So I think that's what the basis was.
WWE Creative, if you are listening to this, do not go Bella versus Bella. That does not work.
And my final note on that, for the see-through outfit that Nikki Bella was wearing, I approve. We would follow it with Neville versus Rusev. The Miz was on commentary. Apparently, they're still trying to build this whole thing of a storyline of the Miz and Neville. I'm not even sure where they're going to go with that from this point on. But this is basically Rusev squashing Neville in a sense. Rusev, way to make your breakout star of the year look really weak, WWE Creative. Rusev would lock on the accolade on Neville, and then once again with the League of Nations out there, they did exactly the same thing that they did to Jack Swagger. Sheamus would hit the bro kick on Neville to take out Neville. Now, for the Slammy Award for the This Is Awesome Moment of the Year presented by The Miz, Now, to an extent, Lance, I can agree with the usage of The Rock and Ronda Rousey, even though that whole thing that everybody's been wanting to happen for WrestleMania 32 probably won't happen. But when it boils down to it, there were a lot of awesome moments of the year, including, and I say rest in peace to that beautiful car. You guys remember that car that Seth Rollins gave to J&J Security? That was a beautiful car, and Brock Lesnar pretty much just went ham on it and destroyed it. And I think that's just an abuse to good cars and people with good taste in cars. But then again, like I said earlier, that's probably going to be another video for another time in another place. But do you agree with the selection of The Rock and Ronda Rousey as the This Is Awesome moment of the year?
Absolutely. To me, they had one for some of the biggest stage of the year, which WrestleMania is. 2, nobody saw it coming whatsoever. And 3, I think it made the news the next day.
Yeah. Rick, what do you think?
Well, first off, if you listen to the fans, when they announced him, not one person clapped. It was, you could hear the fucking mosquitoes in the background. That's how quiet it was. And I'm going to tell you, sorry, Rock does not deserve that in any shape or form. He made, 2 appearances the entire year? You know, it's just bullshit. It's, WWE propaganda.
And you also got to say, too, maybe it's a way of trying to sway Ronda Rousey into trying to at least consider a WWE career.
Yeah, it's more than likely, to try to, basically dangle that carrot in front of Ronda Rousey and say, oh, we could probably do this. Well, only time will tell if she actually does that. But anyway, we have Brie Bella and Becky Lynch, and just like Rick was talking about earlier, ever since Nikki Bella's been gone, Brie's been getting her butt kicked, and it happened once again with Becky Lynch locking on to the summer on Brie. And did you just notice the exciting crowd reaction during that match? Boy, were they amped up for that match, Rick. I mean, they were hooting and hollering throughout the entire match.
You can see Rick is so excited, just like the fans.
I'm sorry, I was away from my APC. What was the question, Billy? I do apologize.
Well, I was kind of being a little bit sarcastic when it came to the actual fan reaction to the matchup between Brie Bella and Becky Lynch.
Yeah, again, it was another ho-hum moment in WWE. So yeah, can't say much about it, so I guess me remaining silent probably was my original thought.
Exactly. Now, the match of the year. First off, I gotta say congratulations to Ric Flair for coming on WWE programming sober. And you could tell because he was walking upright and his face wasn't red. And he wasn't elbowing any jackets in sight. Now, for the match of the year, there were quite a few selections, in my personal opinion, Mr. Knight, that really could have gotten it. Now, I can understand the selection of Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker and the fanfare that has gotten, considering that it's the end of an extensively long feud between Lesnar and The Undertaker, dating well back to 2003. The matchup in itself was okay, but if I had to select one above that, Mr. Knight, in my personal opinion, I would have to go to the first match between Kevin Owens and John Cena. That match was really good.
You know what? And I got to definitely agree with you. Not only did we finally get to see John Cena do more moves than what he normally does, we got to see actually Kevin Owens showcase his skills against such a top-tier talent. So that should have been pretty much that should have been the match of the year and everything else, because it brung what's needed in the WWE. New talent to take over against the old.
And Joe, I'm going to have to agree with you. In fact, on our last edition, where we did our own HWR year-end awards, if I'm not mistaken, we actually gave that match to Cena and Owens.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. But I got to say, for the other selections, it was Sting and Triple H. Now, if the matchup at WrestleMania would have gone a lot better than what it did, I can understand it. But then again, you can also understand the inclusion of that one, especially for nostalgia purposes, and considering the fact that there was also usage between DX and the NWO. And I can't count how many times during the Attitude Era, when I was growing up, Lance, that the fans have wanted to see DX versus the NWO.
Oh, most definitely. And I do believe that is the first time in WWE history we saw the Clique in the same ring at WrestleMania.
Yeah, definitely. And then the Fatal 4-Way match they had for the #1 contendership, if I remember correctly, it was Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens, and Alberto Del Rio. That Fatal 4-Way was a really good match, and I guess that would mean there's probably no other matches that could be up for consideration for Match of the Year. But for Brock Lesnar and Undertaker to get it, I'm not going to complain about it. But the final match of the night is the steel cage match between Sheamus and Dean Ambrose. And we must mention, before this matchup took place backstage, the League of Nations would once again strike and take out both the Usos backstage. So that would leave just Dean Ambrose, so we thought, at that moment in time. Now, the steel cage match almost looked like it wasn't going to happen, especially with Sheamus bro-kicking Dean Ambrose right out of the door before the matchup could even get underway. But at one point of the match, Roman Reigns would apparently he's now a magician, because he can appear out of nowhere, would end up... And if you guys go back to Monday Night Raw, basically the first time you see him in that match, Rick, is at the bottom of the screen when he's spearing, I believe it might have been Alberto Del Rio, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's correct. He did take out the rest of the League of Nations. And here's a little side point. I don't know if anybody noticed. When he threw the chair up over the ladder, over the cage, it actually landed open on all fours.
Yeah, it was like, hey, here, have a seat. And that's exactly what happened. But Dean Ambrose would end up getting to that chair first and basically just go ham on Sheamus with it. And then when he would do the dirty deed onto the chair, Mr. Knight, something that we both pointed out is the fact that the position of the chair, Dean Ambrose came down right on the legs of that chair.
Yeah, and I'm surprised he didn't hurt himself even more with that with that botch. You know, it's something that, again, you know, it's great to see. Sometimes it's really surprising to see a great move like that. But sometimes, you know, we all got to realize, you know, these guys do it, and they are legitimately hurting themselves.
Did anybody else notice at the beginning of the night when Kane came out, there was a technical botch on his pyro?
Honestly, no, I did not notice this.
No, it was his ring pyro. He was going up to do his ring pyro, and nothing happened.
Yeah, and like I said, I agree with, you know, that it most likely happened, but I personally did not catch it.
It's just like his ring career. It's just like his ring career. It fizzled.
Now, the finish of the match boiled down to both Sheamus and Dean Ambrose on the outside. They were both trying to climb down, and then Sheamus would then hit a headbutt on Dean Ambrose. Ambrose would end up falling down. Ergo, Dean Ambrose is your winner. And then to cap off the night, Roman Reigns would spear Sheamus. Now, think about that. They made the League of Nations look strong all night, having them take out Jack Swagger, Neville, and the Usos backstage. And one guy takes out all members of the League of Nations. What does that look like to you in your personal opinion, Mr. Knight?
I'm sorry, what was that, Billy?
When you look at what if you look at what happened with the League of Nations all night long, in a gang capacity, they took out Jack Swagger, they took out Neville, and they took out both the Usos. So basically, nobody could take them on, and yet one guy in the form of Roman Reigns takes out all of them.
You know what's going to happen? Shield reunion. That's what's going to happen when Seth Rollins comes back.
I do agree with you on that one, Joe, but I don't think it'll be long past the League of Nations if they are there on that long. And Billy, to answer your question, why they had Roman Reigns do it that way, because they wanted to make the League of Nations look strong, but they wanted to make Roman Reigns as the WWE champion even more stronger. As we said, heard before in several reports, the WWE is grooming him to be the next face of the WWE, where Cena currently is.
Now, for the other selections for the Slammies, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Usos won Tag Team of the Year. I kind of disagree with that in a sense. I figured, in my personal opinion, the New Day should have been the Tag Team of the Year. I believe the extreme moment of the year was Roman Reigns going ham on Triple H at Survivor Series. Why? I don't know why they consider that to be the extreme moment of the year. And I believe they said that Stephen Amell won like a celebrity award that Stardust
Why?
stole?
Just so Stardust should steal it, probably.
Yeah, but it's. I hate when celebrities are part of an awards Hall of Fame. I understand that sometimes they can be like an entertainment level, but they certainly don't deserve any awards in wrestling.
And I have to agree. That's what really destroys the kayfabe. It's that involving guys who really that should not be in there, like involving the guy who plays the Green Arrow or Arrow, whatever, with Stardust. And that's why wrestling is not respected anymore. It's not at that high level that it used to be. I mean, okay, sure, they used to have celebrities back in the 80s, but if you notice, they were at ringside, or they were commentators, or they were ring announcers or something else. They were not actively involved in matches unless you knew they can handle themselves.
Are there any awards that I'm missing out? Because I'm thinking there might be one or two that I haven't mentioned yet. Because I know it's like Extreme Moment of the Year, Tag Team of the Year. I'm guessing Stephen Amell's Celebrity of the Year. I don't have the actual notes in front of me as to what exactly what award that he won. But anyway, we'll probably if you guys know in the comments section, please tell us and please enlighten us as to that. But anyway, guys and gals, overall score on Monday Night Raw this week, the Slammies. Now, I gotta say, from a great Raw that we had last week to a little bit of a letdown in Slammies, I gotta say I was a little bit disappointed in that, but a still pretty decent show, 3.25 out of 5. I gotta go to the steel cage match, Dean Ambrose versus Sheamus, for best match of the night. I thought it was a fantastic match. I'm going to throw out an honorable mention to Santino Marella stealing R-Truth's LOL Moment of the Year award and then chasing him off. I thought that was funny as hell. That should be next year's LOL Moment of the Year, in my opinion. But anyway, when we look to worst segment or worst match of the night, I got to go to Brie Bella and Becky Lynch, and it's no disrespect to Becky Lynch. Notice I just said Becky Lynch. Or in a sense, Brie Bella, because she's always been the better Bella in my personal opinion. But the matchup in itself was just completely dead. There was no fan reaction to it. Fans were just looking at it as possibly a piss break. So unfortunately, if I had to give it to someone, I have to give it to that match. So again, to reiterate my score, 3.25 out of 5. Best match of the night is Sheamus and Dean Ambrose. Worst match is Brie Bella and Becky Lynch. Rick, over to you, your overall score and your picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw this week.
Well, you know what, Billy? I'm gonna with the worst match of the night. I gotta disagree with you. It had to be Jack Swagger versus Alberto Del Rio. The match itself was not great, but the outcome was so obvious. I even wrote out who won before the match even ended.
Yeah, to an extent, I gotta agree with you on that one. Plus, we gotta throw a little dishonorable mention to the technical crew of WWE. Again, when Kane does his move like this, he's supposed to have it ring pyro. What was your best match of the night?
Obviously, it was the main event match. Ambrose, and it was excellent. It was just one of those cage matches that had all the great bumps. And I had nothing but great things to say about it. Overall score, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Lance, over to you, your overall score and your picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go 3.5. Best match, like y'all been saying, the main event. Worst, I got to go with Rick, the Del Rio match. Best segment, however, I thought it was freaking hilarious how they did that little comedy bit during the Divas
of the year?
Yeah.
I think Paige can take our truth.
I think I like her to take me.
Oh man, what was your score?
3.5.
All right, and finally, over to Mr. Knight and get his overall score and his picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw this week.
Well, I got to go with a 3-point rating, 3 out of 5. Best match definitely is the main event. Again, you can't argue with those guys in there. Good bumps, good work. actually made the show. I think the match that really was the worst, it had to be the Divas match. It's something that we've seen multiple times. It's time for the Bellas to leave. So I think that overall, bad match of the night.
Anyway, guys and gals, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I said segment. I probably have to agree with Rick.
Yeah, to an extent. I also have to agree with Rick because, again, when you look at a match like Alberto Del Rio and Jack Swagger, when they make it that blatantly obvious, what's the point of watching it? There's really no point in watching something that, and it's something I've said time in and time out, on here and on HWR. When wrestling becomes predictable, it becomes boring, and there was no saving that match. But in hindsight, it's 2020, and when you look at Brie Bella and Becky Lynch, with the matchup being what it was, and there was no crowd reaction, it was completely dead. To me, it's almost a sleeper match when you look at it in that point. But anyway, guys and gals, what we want to know from you guys out there, the viewers and subscribers, your thoughts on Monday Night Raw this week. What are your overall scores? What are your picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw this week? We definitely want to know what you guys have to say. Be sure you put your comments in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Rick, where can fans check you out on HWR?
Well, right now, HWR, if I can talk tonight, is, we're making some changes. We are leaving the news page over on Facebook, and we are now having a chat room. We want you, the fans, to join the HWR chat room in the group section where you can say what you want, how you want to say it, because HWR is hardcore. As far as our weekly podcast, HWR is taking the rest of the year off, and we will be back in January 2016.
All right, so be sure you look for HWR in 2016, guys and gals, and that's on youtube.com/HWR show. Lance, what can fans expect to see when they come visit your channel over on youtube.com/LanceMossTV?
Album reviews, NASCAR discussion videos, redneck going videos, musical equipment reviews, some rants, and every Wednesday I go live with Lance Moss TV and friends. Hit me up on Twitter, it's at Lance Moss TV, and subscribe because I'm getting pretty daggone close to 200 subs.
And your show might be worth watching more than Tribute to the Troops Wednesday night. And finally, Joseph Knight is the Classic Wrestling Manager. Mr. Knight, where can people check you out?
They can follow me on Twitter at JKnightCWA, or they can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com, Joseph Knight Manager. I got a couple of new projects that's going to be coming out in the new year, and I'll definitely be posting about it soon.
WGS-TV is on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can ask me questions. Links will be provided in the description box below. And as always, guys and gals, I'll have a couple of videos in the annotations at the end of this video for you guys to check out as well. So with that being said, for the hardcore host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, Rick Head, the incomparable Lance Moss from Lance Moss TV, and the Classic Wrestling Manager, Joseph Knight, I am the Wrestle Gamer. Double B Bellinger saying we'll see you at the next Warp Zone. Very interesting. Little Halo 510. You guys can see that right here. So not at all. I think I was walking too fast. Hey, you jerk! I was talking to her. Sorry, but she's with me. If you got business with her, you could say it in front of me.